Autoridades, señoras y señores,
Authorities,
como
ladies and
presidente de Nueva
gentlemen,
Economía Forum,
as
tengo el honor
president
de
of
darles
Nueva
la
Economia
bienvenida
Forum,
y
I have the
agradecerles
great
su
honor of
participación
welcoming you
en esta
today
ceremonia de
and
entrega
to
del
thank you
Premio
for your
Joven Europa
participation in this
2024,
award ceremony
otorgado por
in its
nuestra organización
2024
a la
edition,
excelentísima
granted
señora
by our
doña Roberta
organization
Metsola,
to Ms.
presidenta del
Roberta
Parlamento
Metsola,
Europeo.
President of the
Les ruego que en
European
primer lugar
Parliament.
se pongan de pie para
First of all,
escuchar
please
el
let
himno
us all
nacional de
stand up
España,
to listen to the
interpretado por el coro
Spanish
y la Orquesta
national
Filarmonía de
hymn,
Madrid bajo la dirección
our
del maestro
anthem,
Rafael
interpreted by
Albiñana.
the Madrid Philharmonic Orchestra and Chorus, conducted by Master Rafael Albiñana.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Autoridades,
Esteemed authorities, President of the European Parliament, President of the Senate of the Kingdom of Spain, President of the Constitutional Court, President of the General Council of the Judiciary, Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation, Secretaries of State, former President of the European Parliament, former President of the Council of State, Euro MPs, Spanish MPs and senators, ambassadors, secretaries of state, the delegate of the government in the Community of Madrid, president of the European Movement in Spain, representatives of civil society, ladies and gentlemen. This ceremony was initially scheduled for October the 30th, but it had to be postponed as a consequence of the devastating flash floods in the southeast of Spain. We'd like to reiterate our condolences to the relatives of those who died, those who went missing, and those who were left homeless, and express our wish for a quick reconstruction of the affected areas. We feel very proud that this event coincides with the 25th anniversary of Nueva Economia Forum. In this first quarter of the 21st century, it has turned into a meeting point in the most important debate organization in our country, known for its independence, its open nature, its plurality, and its will to help Spanish society find, through a constructive dialogue and the dissemination of constructive ideas, can find the right channels for economic recovery and concord, and so that Spain can play an active role as member of the European Union and as an essential ally of Latin American countries, as well as an active protagonist of the international community. Our work is possible thanks to the participation and trust of these speakers and entities that they represent in our debates. In our events, we count with the participation of the institutions of the state, members of the Spanish government, representatives of autonomous communities, political parties, European Council, the European Commission, and the European Parliament. Founded in the year 2000, Nueva Economia Forum is present in 6 Spanish cities, and since February of this year, it has extended its activities of Forum Europa to Brussels, the capital of the European Union, with the same purpose to contribute to the debate of ideas, to strengthen the Union and finding common ground regarding the great challenges that the European Union faces. We are very satisfied with the first steps that have been taken and how well we have been received in Brussels, especially by President Metsola herself. Thank you to those who trust our organization. We must acknowledge the support of our patrons and sponsors in Spain and in Europe, which continue to provide us transparent, diversified, and private financing, which makes it easier for us to remain independent. Our gratitude also to the media and the professionals that cover and participate in our debates, to the attendees of all sectors, and to the diplomatic corps. And allow me to underscore the contribution, the continuous support, and good advice of those who form the circle of confidence, of trust of Nueva Economía Forum. In our circle of trust, we have all sorts of points of view and sensibilities. The members of the circle represent the Spanish civil society and the international community, so they make our activities sounder and stronger. Nueva Economía Forum will renew in this ceremony its commitment to continue forward with the same purpose, with excitement and the great effort of our team of professionals and associates, to whom I'd also like to express my affectionate acknowledgement. Since 2003, the awards granted by Nueva Economía Forum have been received by Secretary General of UN, Ban Ki-moon, Presidents of the European Council, Van Rompuy, of the European Parliament, Tajani, of the European Commission, Barroso and Juncker, of the European Central Bank, Trichet, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Borrell, the presidents of Argentina, Macri, Brazil, Lula da Silva, Colombia, Santos, Chile, Bachelet, Italy, Napolitano, Portugal, Cavaco Silva, the Chancellor of Germany, Merkel, the Secretary Generals of the OECD, Gurria, and of the ILO, Ryder, the manager of the IMF, Rato, and the authors of the Spanish Constitution. And thus we have come to the 2024 edition, where, with great merit, the award for Europa goes to Ms. Roberta Metsola, President of the European Parliament. We have the honor to hear next from Mr. José Manuel Álvarez, Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation.
Presidenta Metsola, querida Roberta.
President Metsola, dear Roberta, President of the Constitutional Court and of the Senate, President of Nueva Economía Forum, authorities, many faces of friends, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we deliver the Forum Europa Award 2024, which is granted every year by Nueva Economía Forum. And we grant the prize to a very good friend, Roberta Metsola, President of the European Parliament. And doing so, we acknowledge a European politician, of course, but we also acknowledge a Europeist woman, a woman who believes in Europe, who defends from the European Parliament building more and better Europe, a woman that since January of 2022 is a spokesperson for all of us, because at the end of the day, the Parliament represents European citizens. A spokesperson for the rights of citizens, of a closer Europe, a Europe which is closer to citizens, that goes deeper into the social pillar and is investing in energetic and digital transformation. through Roberta Metsola, and because of her nature and her daily work at the European Parliament, we also honor the best values of our union that she represents: the soundness and solidarity between peoples, the collaboration between the different members, and above all, peace, so necessary at these times of unfair aggression of Russia against the Ukrainian European territory, and social justice on which our union has been built and which gives raison d'être to Europe since its foundation. Roberta Metsola makes sure that Europe is not only looking to bring states together, but also to bring peoples together. And as Jacques Delors said, it should not be only technical and economic. It should have a soul for all our citizens. The institutions, the market, the administration can be the body of Europe, but its soul can only be the citizens, the people, that which is represented in the European Parliament and also in its president. Our institutional collaboration with the European Parliament and with the president, during the Spanish presidency of the Union, allowed us to do very relevant work for the economic progress and the well-being of all Europeans. Without the Parliament, without its work, we won't have achieved many things. Very recently, the European Parliament, I'd like to acknowledge the role that Roberta Metsola played in this. Thanks to their sensitivity to the people affected by the DANA, the flash floods in Spain. Thank you so much for your help to allow European funds in order for the reconstruction of the Spanish areas affected by the terrible flash floods will arrive faster in a more flexible manner. Your support and solidarity, dear Roberta, is something that all Spanish citizens will always remember. And in the past few years, these years haven't been easy. And as president of the European Parliament, you had to manage many things. From the Parliament, you had to manage the reconstruction of Europe after the COVID-19 crisis and face two terrible and unfair wars: the Russian aggression of Ukraine and the extension of the war in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in a spiral of violence initiated by the atrocious terrorist attack by Hamas. All of that without mentioning the response to the energy, economic, and social challenges, to external interference also in the elections to the European Parliament, and disinformation, one of the great threats that we have on our democracies. The collective success of the building of Europe is thanks to the collaboration of the forces that believe in Europe, that have common values: democracy, the rule of law, the fight against climate change, social justice. And at present, we find ourselves in a new moment, the beginning of a new institutional cycle, where Roberta Metsola begins her second mandate, chairing the European Parliament. This institutional change brings with it a new college of commissioners approved by the Parliament very recently. The continuity of the work and institutional stability which is necessary for the progress of citizens needs re-editing. That coalition that has guided Europe through decades of prosperity and peace, a coalition of social democrats, progressives, moderates from the European People's Party, liberals, a coalition which acts with its own voice against those who want the opposite to what we wish, those who want less Europe, a disunited Europe, a European voice to provide solutions to the problems and challenges that our citizens face every day. The success of the Spanish presidency of the Council in the second half of 2023 strengthens even more my conviction that only through institutional collaboration can we achieve a better Europe, can we achieve a Europe which is more flexible for the needs of our citizens. And we can see that very clearly with the 50 agreements that we reached with the European Parliament on things that seemed impossible. We drove forward, thanks to the support of the European Parliament, a reform of the electricity market that allowed us to reduce our dependence on other countries and give more price stability. We approved regulations like the ones to restore nature, and we had the zero net emission law, driving forward the building of clean technologies, bringing together also the protection of the ecology and technological development. We also have the European Card of Disability, so that all Europeans can be citizens, full citizens, or the declaration of or what we have done to fight violence against women. And also we have supported the Ukraine. And during our presidency, thanks to the support of the Parliament, we made the historical decision of beginning negotiations for Ukraine and Moldavia to join the EU. And 8 years after, we celebrated a summit with Latin America that has allowed us to put Latin America at the center of European policy. And now we need to take a new step in our relationship with Latin America. Those negotiations that have come to a first agreement, an agreement signed a few days ago on December the 6th. Now comes the time to ratify it. And we have the European Parliament with their support so that this can be another success. This is a decisive step, this agreement with Mercosur. It's a clear sign of the political commitment of Europeans with that part of the world. And dear President, dear Roberta, Spain believes in a union of citizens free from foreign interference and disinformation. Europe, we are aware, is not only a flag. We build it every day. And the place where it is built the most near citizens is precisely in the Parliament that you preside. So we will continue to be committed throughout the new legislation in every single subject, in social and territorial cohesion, in gender equality, in improving the quality of jobs. There are many cases that are being worked on where you can have the full support of Spain to continue to make progress, like social dialogue, which is going to be promoted in 2025, or the initiative to fight poverty and social exclusion, the European Affordable Housing Plan, the Climate Fund, a true European Union of health with a law of critical pharmaceutical drugs that will also reduce our vulnerabilities to the outside world. We also want to continue to make progress in recognizing language diversity in the European Union. And institutions don't make progress on their own. It is their participants that participate in them, and the people that lead them, like you lead the European Parliament, they are the ones that make the difference. This is why I know, and I am a privileged spectator as Minister of the EU, that our Union, our Parliament, is in very good hands with you. In your hands, it's in excellent hands. And this award, this recognition, I hope will also serve to bring you even closer to Spain, to the diversity of our country. We are a country and a society that, as you know, is fully committed with the European Parliament and the construction of Europe. It has a voice, its own identity within Europe. as a society that fully believes in Europe, but it is always aware that together we can go further and better. And therefore, just before celebrating the 40th anniversary of our joining the European communities, as they were called then, I can guarantee to you that you can still count on Spain and the whole of the Spanish people to support you in your work, because what is good for Europe is good for Spain. Mrs. President, next we're going to hear from the President of the Constitutional Court of the Kingdom of Spain, Mr. Cándido Conde Pumpido. Authorities, President Metsola, ladies and gentlemen, it is for me a true pleasure and a great honor to be here with all of you in this beautiful concert hall of our Royal Theatre, to be part of this ceremony to deliver the Forum Europa Award to the President of the European Parliament. I'd like to thank the President of Nueva Economía Forum for inviting me to participate in this event, as I did also in 2023 when we handed over the prize to Mr. Josep Borrell, another great European citizen. And on this occasion, I'd like to congratulate Nueva Economía Forum for the efforts they've made to turn into a center for the exchange of ideas and to promote economic, political, and social development nationally, but also at an international level, which can be seen very clearly with its new office in Brussels. It has now become an international organization. Congratulations to you. And we have the High Representative, Mr. Josep Borrell, who last year was awarded with this prize, and also the former President of the European Commission, Claude Juncker. Also, the Council of Europe was awarded with this prize in the past. In this edition, the prize has been awarded to the current President of the European Parliament, Ms. Roberta Metsola, who recently has been re-elected for a second mandate heading this institution. You certainly deserve this award because you have many things in your favor. Apart from being the youngest person to preside the European Parliament, she can feel very proud that her election was a result of consensus, the consensus that she always achieves thanks to her dedication and her commitment to European politics. If Roberta Metsola has something, as well as the previous awardees, is that she represents and they represent the best of Europe. The European Union has proven the potential it has to bring together our efforts with a common goal, thanks to the fact that we share values, and these are part of the Treaty of the Union. Human freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, the respect for human rights, including the rights of minorities, these are the raison d'être of the European Union. These values are common to the member states in a society characterized by pluralism, by the absence of discrimination, by tolerance, by justice, by solidarity, and by equality between men and women. By the idea of Walter Hallstein that the European Union could turn into a community of law, today is more real than ever. The Union has its own laws, regulations that are different from those of the member states and different from international law. The strength of their laws resides in the values that we share, in the principles that we respect, and in the rights and freedoms that we protect. It is also also true that Europe is now facing many challenges, internal as well as external, that may affect the foundations of the European Union, the fight against climate change, the war in Ukraine, and the extension of the Union, the enlargement of the Union, which requires making changes in the decision-making process. These challenges entail the need for Europe to be more autonomous and to have the capacity to look face-to-face a world which is not always kind. What do we want to be? Where do we want to go? And how can we guarantee our collective security and our coexistence? These are the main challenges that the European Parliament faces. A parliament that, under the leadership of its president, must act as a great embassy for democracy to achieve climate neutrality in the European Union, transform Europe into a modern and efficient economy, maintain the welfare state, and achieve a more sustainable and more inclusive union. Let's not take for granted everything that we have achieved. Times change, and we need to adapt to them without losing sight of our true objective. Let us all and each one of us defend all the rights that we have achieved, and let's continue to work to achieve other rights in a civilized and peaceful way, focusing above all on the rights of future generations. As a former president of the European Court of Human Rights said, democracy, just as human rights and the rule of law, are not acquired once and for all. You must fight and work for them every day. I truly believe in this idea, and the Constitutional Court of Spain that I preside has been adapting a jurisprudence that allows it to act as a guarantor of the laws of the Union. And we will make sure that these laws will become part of our legislation. This jurisprudence, at the same time, allows the Constitutional Court of Spain to play the role of driving forward European law, exercising control over the enforcement of the law, and making sure that the principles are applied appropriately. I have said on other occasions, and I repeat it today, that we certainly have to always abide by the law. The Constitutional Court is a guarantor of the Constitution, a constitution that is about to turn into the longest constitution in the history of Spain. And it has brought us a long period of democracy and freedom. It has been the most important political event of our recent history, the approval of our Constitution, together with our joining the European Union. Today, I can tell you that from the Constitutional Court, we will have a constructive dialogue between the European courts with the European Court of Justice and the Human Rights Tribunal, so that the European Parliament and its President, Ms. Metsola, play a very important role in making sure that everything is done properly. And let me mention the sentence that you said in Sorbonne. History has proven that a European Union enlarged, based on clear objectives, serves to protect peace, security, stability, and the prosperity of Europe in the international arena. Ms. Metsola, from our absolute trust in the European Parliament, congratulations for this well-deserved award. And thank you, everyone.
mediante consulta.
Through consultation with the members of our circle of trust, Nueva Economía Forum decided to grant the Forum Europa Award in its 2024 edition as an expression of the acknowledgement of Spanish civil society to the political career of Ms. Metsola, her contribution to the building of Europe, her friendship towards Spain, and her permanent attitude of service and commitment in the strengthening of the European Union, its foundational values, and its strategic autonomy. With her strong leadership since the beginning of her mandate until the present day, President Metsola has woven and coordinated permanently majorities in the European Parliament that have allowed and still allow the drive forward in a decisive way of the economic development and social development of the peoples of Europe and of the Union itself, promoting greater rights for its citizens, investment in sustainable growth and employment, solidarity with migrants and refugees, and equity. The award consists of a parchment crafted by the calligraphers of La Villa del Libro de Urueña in Valladolid under the leadership of Esperanza Serrano, and it is framed in Spanish silver, chiseled by craftsmen from Madrid. Presidents of the Senate and of the Constitutional Court and Minister of Foreign Affairs, please deliver the award to our prize winner, the President of the European Parliament. Next, Ms. Roberta Metsola will address us. She is the President, as you know, of the European Parliament.
Muchísimas gracias, querido.
Thank you so much, dear President of the Senate, Pedro Royan, dear Minister, thank you, Jose Manuel Alvarez, dear President of the Constitutional Court, Mr. Conde Pumpido, dear President of the Forum Nueva Economía, Jose Luis Rodriguez, dear MPs, dear guests, colleagues.
It has been over a month since the devastating floods that brought unimaginable loss and hardship to Spain. The shock and sorrow resonating throughout all of Europe. But in the days that followed, our heavy hearts were uplifted by the massive wave of solidarity as people from all corners of Spain came together to help. People coming together in the face of adversity is at the heart of what it means to be European. The European Union has been by Spain's side in these difficult times, providing urgent support to help Spain recover and rebuild. And we will continue to stand in solidarity with the Spanish people. I was here in Spain the morning after the floods. And as you know, and as was said, we were all supposed to meet on that day. But the tragedy reminded us all of just how fragile life can be. And today, I am grateful that we can all be together. And I am grateful to be back in Madrid, a city where I have always felt very much at home. Because Madrid is a city that embodies Spain's unique spirit, rooted in tradition, yet always looking forward. It reflects the warmth, the generosity, and openness that define Spain, and indeed all of Europe. It is truly a tremendous honor to receive this award. And I do so on behalf of the entire European Parliament, of my fellow members, and of all those who work tirelessly to defend the values that bind us as Europeans. This award is not just a recognition, it is a responsibility. A responsibility to stand up for freedom, for democracy, for equality, peace, and solidarity, values which are the very fabric of our union, values that are increasingly coming under threat. We are at a pivotal moment in Europe's history, and the challenges we face demand leadership, clarity of action, and unity of purpose. Europe's place in the world must be clear. And when people look to us, they must find direction. I believe in Europe. I believe in our ability to meet this moment in history. Now, my optimism is not a blind one. I have seen how we stand together in the face of a pandemic, how we navigated the economic impact of the last few years, how we addressed the energy crisis, how we stood shoulder to shoulder with those fighting for freedom and for Europe in Ukraine, how we kept the pace with tackling climate change, how we passed critical laws on migration, on equality, on the social pillar, on disability, on security and defense. Together, we are making the future, if I can say, a little bit safer, a little bit fairer, and a little bit more prosperous. It is on those values and with that same unity of purpose that now we must keep building our Europe. That is the ethos of the European Parliament. And here I must extend my deepest thanks to my fellow Spanish members of the European Parliament for your unwavering dedication. We could not have done this or anything without you. It was the constructive forces of Europe who delivered and who must deliver again. It was those forces that after a decade of political impasse passed groundbreaking legislation to build a fairer and more robust migration system. For too long, frontline communities from El Hierro to Lampedusa and Lesbos have shouldered the responsibility. For too long, member states have felt alone in this struggle. And with the new Migration and Asylum Pact, our message is clear that this is a European challenge that we will address together. It is that spirit of Europe, that sense of leadership that must drive our response to the conflict in the Middle East and to finding a sustainable way towards a lasting peace that provides both hope and security. And Europe has a role to play, and we must live up to it. Just as we have done in Ukraine, where we continue to stand with those fighting for their freedom, for democracy, and for Europe, for as long as it takes. Just as we have done in Venezuela, where I am proud that the European Parliament awarded the Sakharov Prize to Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo González Urrutia, and we will present the award to them in Strasbourg next week. Dear friends, I said that my optimism is not blind. Indeed, it is informed, what I would say, by a dose of realism. I will always be proud of what the European Union has achieved, but we must also be honest about where we could have done better, where we could have listened more or acted faster, where we may have gone too far, too fast. Too many in Europe still struggle to make it to the end of the month. Too many young people worry about whether they will find a job or afford a home. Too many businesses are burdened by bureaucracy and rising costs. And people look to us for answers, and we must respond or risk them finding comfort in the false narratives of the fringes and the extremes. A few months ago, the people of Spain joined their fellow Europeans in choosing the future of our continent in the European elections. And they gave us a clear mandate to build a Europe that is stronger, that is more secure, and that is more competitive. To deliver a Europe that creates opportunities for everyone, one that leaves nobody behind. How do we make this vision a reality? We must first start by deepening our fragmented single market, especially in sectors like energy and finance. We must support European businesses, boost innovation, and unleash investment. We must make life simpler for our entrepreneurs or risk them moving elsewhere. Making Europe more competitive also means making Europe more secure. But rising global tensions are putting Europe's security at risk. And that is why we must maintain our global leadership. Nobody else will do it for us, to make sure that we have control over our own future. We all followed the results of the elections in the United States. We should not be surprised that America will pursue its own interests. The European people also elect their own leaders, and we will always stand up for Europe. But my hope is that our partners understand that America first will never work if it means America only. Spain's role is crucial. With its unique ties across the Mediterranean and across the Atlantic, Spain is key to building a Europe that can speak to the world, a Europe that can lead in a new world, a Europe that is tough when it has to be, but a Europe that ultimately remains a force for good in this world, a Europe of opportunity that can live up to its promise for generations to come. With this award, we at the European Parliament recommit ourselves to that mission, to stand up for Europe and the values that unite us, even when it is hard to do so, especially when it is hard. So thank you very much for this great honor. Gracias. Viva España. Viva Europa.
Felicitaciones, señora presidenta.
Congratulations,
Tenemos el honor de que clausure esta ceremonia de entrega del
we have the
premio
great
Fórum
honor
Europa
to have
2024
with us the
el excelentísimo
President
señor
of the
presidente del Senado del
Senate
Reino de España,
of the Kingdom of
don
Spain,
Pedro
Mr.
Royal.
Pedro Royan, with us, and he is going to give the closing remarks of this event.
Señora Presidenta del Parlamento Europeo, querida Roberta Metsola,
Mrs. President of the
del
European
Tribunal
Parliament,
Constitucional,
dear Roberta
Presidenta del
Metsola,
Consejo
President
General
of
del
the
Poder
Constitutional
Judicial,
Court, President
Ministro de Asuntos
of
Exteriores, Unión Europea y
the
Cooperación,
Judiciary Council,
querido Presidente de Nueva
dear President
Economía, José Luis Rodríguez,
Nueva
delegado del
Economia
Gobierno,
Forum, José Luis
vicepresidente
Rodríguez,
primero del Senado,
delegate of
portavoces
the government,
del
first
Senado
vice
y del
president
Congreso
of
de
the
los
Senate,
Diputados,
spokespeople of the
estimados
Senate and
eurodiputados,
the Congress,
querido
dear
presidente del
MP,
Patronato,
Euro MPs,
Teatro Real y
dear
anfitrión en
President
esta ceremonia tan
of
maravillosa
the
y con un
Royal
marco
Theater where
tan
we are meeting
inigualable.
today, in
Medios de
this
comunicación,
spectacular
señoras y señores, muy buenos
hall.
días. Permítanme que
Media,
mis primeras
ladies and
palabras
gentlemen, good morning.
sean de
Allow my
felicitación a la
first
presidenta
words
del Parlamento Europeo, Roberta
to
Metsola.
congratulate the President of the
Presidenta, mi
European
más sincera
Parliament,
enhorabuena por
Roberta
haber recibido
Metsola.
este
President,
prestigioso
my
reconocimiento,
sincere
el
congratulations
premio
for receiving this
Forum Europa
prestigious
2024.
acknowledgement, the Forum Europa
tenido la oportunidad de
2024
escucharla.
Award. We had
Roberta
the
Metsola es
opportunity
sin
to
duda
listen to her
la mejor
words. Roberta
persona que
Metsola
representa
undoubtedly
el
is
proyecto y el espíritu
the best
de
person
lo que ha de
to
ser y es
represent the
la Unión
spirit
Europea.
of what
Una mujer
the
joven,
European
preparada
Union
y
should be
profundamente
and is,
comprometida
a
con los
young
valores que
woman,
sustentan
well
a una
prepared and fully
comunidad de
committed
más de
with the values
450
of a
millones de
community of
europeos.
more than 450 million
Es la persona que
Europeans.
mejor encarna el espíritu de la Unión
She is the
Europea que
person
soñó
that best represents
Robert
the spirit
Schuman,
of the European
pero
Union
también de la
that
Europa que
Robert
millones
Schuman
de
dreamt
europeos
of,
deseamos
but
construir.
also of the
Una Europa
Europe that
más
millions
unida,
of
más solidaria y más
Europeans want
fuerte en
to
un
build,
mundo
a
que
more
se
united,
enfrenta,
more
como hemos tenido la
solidarious
oportunidad de
Europe
escuchar,
in a
a
world
un
that
número
is facing,
innumerable
as
de
we heard from
desafíos
the
globales.
President,
De ahí que
facing
debemos
many
avanzar
global
hacia una
challenges.
autonomía
And this is
estratégica,
why we
como
need
también
to
se ha dicho
continue
desde
to
esta
make
misma
progress
tribuna.
towards a
Desde
strategic
su elección como
autonomy.
presidenta del Parlamento Europeo,
Since
Roberta
she was
Metsola ha
elected as
demostrado
President of the
visión
European
y
Parliament,
carisma,
since then,
así como
Roberta
una
Metsola
pasión
has
inigualable e
shown
incansable
vision
por el
and
bien común.
charisma
Se ha
and an
enfrentado con
unequal
valentía y
passion
determinación a
for
algunos
the
de los
common
retos
good.
más
She has
complejos
faced
que
with
han
courage
puesto a
and
prueba la
determination some of
cohesión
the
y
most
estabilidad
complex
de la Unión
challenges which have
Europea.
tested the cohesion and
En
stability of
su
the European
liderazgo
Union.
encontramos inspiración.
In her leadership,
Su
we
capacidad para
find
fomentar el diálogo y
inspiration.
alcanzar
Her
consensos
capacity to
en
foster
tiempos de
dialogue and
incertidumbre es un
reach
ejemplo de
consensus
que el
at
espíritu
times of
europeo no
uncertainty
solo
is an
sobrevive,
example
sino
that
que
the
se
European
fortalece
spirit not
ante la
only
adversidad.
survives, but
El
becomes
diálogo es la
stronger when
base de los
faced with
acuerdos con un
adversity.
amplio respaldo,
Dialogue is a
que
basis
no han de ser
of
vistos como
agreements
acuerdos
with
desvirtuados,
a strong
sino como
backup
avances
that must
firmes y
not
de
be
generoso apoyo
seen
en la dirección
as
correcta.
something that
Por tanto,
is,
considero un gran acierto por
only
parte de
going to
Nueva Economía
last
Forum haber
for
concedido
a
este
short
premio
time.
a la
No.
presidenta
So
del
I have to
Parlamento Europeo.
congratulate
Este galardón es en
Forum,
esencia un
Nueva Economía
reconocimiento
Forum
a
for
su
awarding
extraordinaria
this
trayectoria,
award
pero
to
también a los
the
valores
President
que
of the
ella
European
encarna y
Parliament
defiende con tanta
because
firmeza y convicción.
of the values
La libertad,
that Ms. Metsola
la justicia y
defends
la
with so
igualdad,
much
que
conviction.
son la piedra angular
Freedom,
de la Unión Europea y de los
justice,
países miembros. Un
which is
espacio
the
de garantías y
cornerstone
un
of
espacio de
the
oportunidades.
European Union and of the member states. A
Señoras y
space for
señores, la
guarantees
Unión
and
Europea es una
opportunities.
sociedad dinámica
Ladies
y
and
activa,
gentlemen, the European
que día
Union
tras
is a
día se
dynamic and
reafirma en el
active
compromiso por
society,
la libertad,
which day after
la
day
democracia y la
reaffirms
solidaridad.
in its commitment for
Somos un faro
freedom,
de
democracy,
modernidad
and
y también de
solidarity.
prosperidad.
We
Un
are
modelo de
an
cohesión que
example
combina
of
crecimiento económico
prosperity,
con justicia
a model
social
of
y
cohesion
que
which
pese a
combines
los
economic growth
desafíos
with social
se
justice.
mantiene como
And despite the
referencia
challenges,
mundial.
it remains as a
Conformamos una
world
comunidad
benchmark.
unida, única,
We are a
diversa,
united community,
compuesta
a
por más de
single, diverse
450 millones de
community made
personas
up by
que
more
aportan
than
su
450
conocimiento,
million
su
people,
experiencia,
which
por
contribute
supuesto,
their
un
knowledge, their
grandísimo
experience,
capital humano.
and of course,
Lo que nos une,
great human capital.
Nuestra
What
voluntad
brings us
compartida
together,
de construir un futuro
our
mejor
shared
es
will
infinitamente
to build
más
a better
fuerte que
future
cualquier diferencia
is
que nos pueda
stronger
separar.
than any
Debemos
difference
huir del
that might
conformismo
separate
porque nos
us.
llevará a la
We
parálisis.
must flee
Es
from
nuestro deber
conformism
ser
because
el
that will
afán de
take us to
superación y la búsqueda de
paralysis.
oportunidades
We
y de
have to
crecimiento
always look
nuestro
for
rumbo a seguir.
opportunities
Sin
and
embargo, no
growth.
podemos
That must be
ignorar que
the
el presente de
direction
la
we
Unión
should take.
Europea
But we cannot
está
ignore
marcado por
that
desafíos complejos que
the
ponen a
present of the
prueba
European
nuestra
Union is
fortaleza y
full of
también nuestra
complex
unidad.
challenges that
En primer
test
lugar,
our
la
strength and
injustificada y
unity.
ilegal
First of all,
invasión de Ucrania
the
por parte de Rusia,
unjustified and
de la
illegal
que
invasion
lamentablemente
of
muy
Ukraine
pronto se
by
cumplirán
Russia,
3 años.
where
Este
unfortunately
conflicto
very
que se libra
soon
en
we will
suelo europeo
celebrate the
no
third
solo
anniversary
amenaza
of.
los derechos y libertades
This
de
is
nuestros
not only
vecinos
a threat
ucranianos,
against the
sino que
rights and
también busca
freedoms of
erosionar
our neighbors in
las
Ukraine,
bases
but
de
it
nuestras
also
democracias
looks
y
to
de nuestras
erode the
libertades.
basis of our
La Unión
democracies and
Europea ha
freedoms.
demostrado una
The
solidaridad y
European
liderazgo
Union has
admirables.
proven
Y este apoyo debe
admirable
continuar.
solidarity and
Apoyar a
leadership,
Ucrania no
and
solo
this
una
support
obligación
must
moral, sino
continue.
también es un acto de
Supporting Ukraine
defensa
is not only a
de nuestros
moral
valores y de
obligation,
nuestros
it is
principios.
an act of defense of our
La batalla
values and
moral
principles.
que no se dé hoy en Ucrania,
The
quién
moral
sabe dónde
battle,
tendrá lugar dentro de una década.
who
Lo
knows
mismo ocurre con
where
la
it's going to
inestabilidad
take
en
place
Oriente
in a
Próximo,
decade.
agravado tras el
The
ataque
same thing
del
goes
7
for
de octubre.
instability in
Estos conflictos no
the Near
solo traen
East.
un devastador
These
sufrimiento
conflicts not
humano,
only
sino que
bring with
generan
them
riesgos de
devastating
escalada
human suffering,
y de
they also generate
desestabilización global.
risks of
Todos,
escalation and
absolutamente
global
todos,
destability.
compartimos el anhelo de que acaben cuanto
Everyone,
antes
all
y que
of us
vuelva a
share
prevalecer
the
la
wish for
diplomacia,
all these
el
conflicts to
sentido
end as
común,
soon as
la
possible,
paz
and
y la
for
justicia.
diplomacy to prevail,
Estos
as well as
conflictos,
common
además,
sense, peace, and
condicionan
justice.
el presente y
These
el futuro de la
conflicts,
Unión
moreover,
Europea.
condition the present and the future
Han
of the
puesto de
European
manifiesto
Union.
la urgencia, la
They
necesidad de
have
avanzar
shown the
hacia una
urgency,
autonomía
the need to make
estratégica
progress
europea.
towards a strategic
Depender de
autonomy
terceros
in
países
Europe.
en áreas esenciales como la
Depending on
energía,
third
la
parties
tecnología
and
o la
third
defensa,
countries in essential
ya no es
areas
una
like
opción.
technology, defense, or
Europa debe ser
energy
capaz
is
de
no longer
garantizar
an
su propia
option.
estabilidad
Europe must be
y
able
tener
to
una
guarantee
capacidad de
its own
decisión
stability
plena,
and
soberana.
have the ability
No
to
olvidemos
make
que
decisions
quienes,
which is full and
conscientes del
sovereign.
potencial que tiene
Let
este
us not
proyecto
forget
común,
that those who
justamente
are
por
aware
esa
of the
razón,
potential that this
intentan
common project
debilitarlo.
have, for that
Frente
reason,
a
try
estos
to make it
ataques,
weaker.
la Unión Europea
When faced with
debe
these attacks, the
permanecer
European
firme y
Union
unida,
must
protegiendo la verdad, la
remain
transparencia y la integridad de
united,
todas y de cada una de sus
protecting the
instituciones.
integrity of each one
Pero al mismo
of
tiempo
its
no debemos perder de
institutions.
vista
But at
lo
the
que nos
same
hace
time, we
grandes.
should not lose
La
sight
Unión
of
Europea es
what
sinónimo
makes
de
us
progreso,
great.
oportunidades
The
y mejora de
European
la calidad
Union
de
is
vida.
synonym
Es un
of
proyecto que
progress,
inspira a naciones que
opportunities, and
desean unirse a
improvement of our
nosotros,
quality of life.
atraídas por
And we
nuestros
inspire
principios y por
nations who
nuestros
want to
valores
join
de
us,
paz,
attracted by
libertad
our
y
principles and
prosperidad.
values of peace,
Es
freedom,
nuestra
and
unión,
prosperity.
nuestra capacidad de
It is
compartir
our
soberanía,
union,
la que
our
convierte a Europa
ability
en una
to share
potencia mundial
sovereignty
capaz
that
de
turns
marcar el
Europe
rumbo
into a
ante
world
los grandes
power which is able
acontecimientos
to set the course
internacionales.
when faced
El
with
presente sin duda nos
international
exige
events.
determinación
The
y el
present
futuro nos
requires
promete grandeza
determination from
si
us, and
permanecemos
the
fieles
future
a
promises
nuestros
greatness
valores
if
y
we
también a
remember
nuestra
loyal
visión
to
común.
our values
La
and
Unión
to a
Europea
common vision.
decidió
The
nacer
European
ante un
Union
propósito claro,
decided to
ser la respuesta a
be
los
born
desafíos de los
with a
ciudadanos y
clear
ser un
purpose, to
proyecto
be the
que
response
ofreciera
to
paz,
the challenges of
progreso
citizens, and
y
be
mayor
to be a
calidad de vida.
project that will offer
Hoy
peace,
más que
progress,
nunca,
and a better
las instituciones
quality of
europeas
life.
deben estar a la
Today, more
altura
than ever,
de ese
European
ideal fundacional.
institutions must
En el
be
último
up to that
Eurobarómetro publicado este
foundational
pasado
ideal.
miércoles,
In the
se
latest
señala con
Eurobarometer
claridad
published this past
cuáles son las
Wednesday,
principales
it
preocupaciones de
points
los
out very
ciudadanos
clearly what are the
españoles
main
y también de los
concerns
ciudadanos
of the
europeos.
Spanish
La
citizens
vivienda,
and of European
la
citizens
inflación,
too.
la migración.
Housing,
Estos desafíos que
inflation,
afectan a
migration.
millones de familias
These challenges that
requieren de
affect
soluciones
millions of
valientes y
households
conjuntas.
and families
No basta
require
con enfoques
courageous
nacionales o
and
aislados, es
joint
imprescindible
solutions.
que
We
actuemos
cannot do
con
it on our
unidad
own
de
in
determinación.
each of our countries. We need
La Unión
to
Europea
act
siempre ha
together
sido un
with
ejemplo de grandes
determination.
consensos.
The European Union
En
has
esa
always been
tarea
an
destaca
example
el
of
liderazgo
great
de la presidenta
consensus.
Metsola.
In that
Su
task, we
capacidad para
should
llegar a acuerdos en
mention the
contextos de
leadership of
enorme
President
complejidad
Metsola,
es una
her
inspiración para
ability
todos y
to
cada uno de
reach
nosotros.
consensus is an
Además de
inspiration
responder
for each
a las
one of us.
inquietudes inmediatas de los
Apart from
ciudadanos,
responding to the
debemos mirar
immediate
hacia el
concerns of
futuro.
citizens,
Europa
we must
afronta
look
otros retos
towards the
como el cambio
future.
climático, la
Europe is facing other
digitalización y
challenges
también la
like
seguridad,
climate change,
entre muchos otros.
digitization, and also
Esta respuesta debe
security,
estar basada en
among
la
many
ciencia y en el
others.
conocimiento,
This response
dejando
must
en
be
un segundo
based on
plano
science
la
and
ideología.
knowledge.
En el ámbito del
And
cambio
leaving
climático, España y los países del sur de
ideology
Europa
behind.
comparten una
In
preocupación que
in
merece una atención
the south of
prioritaria.
Europe,
El problema de la
countries
escasez del agua, la
share
optimización
the
de los
problem of
recursos
water
hídricos.
scarcity, and
necesarias
optimizing
infraestructuras que
water
minimicen
resources,
las
the
lluvias
necessary
torrenciales, como las que
infrastructures
se han padecido
to
en la
minimize
Comunidad
flash
Valenciana y a
floods
las que
like the
desde aquí
ones that
mandamos
occurred in
un
the
afectuoso abrazo.
area of Valencia.
Mientras
And
los
we'd
países
like
del norte
to
gozan de
greet all the
abundantes
people who are still
precipitaciones y
dealing
reservas
with
hídricas,
the
nosotros, los
consequences.
países del sur, sufrimos
So
una
we,
creciente
the
sequía
countries
no
in the south
exenta
of Europe,
de danas con
are
precipitaciones
suffering
torrenciales.
from drought,
La Unión
and
Europea
we
debe
also
liderar proyectos
once
e
in a while
iniciativas que
have these
garanticen
flash floods.
una
So
gestión
the
eficiente
European
del agua
Union
como
must carry
fuente de
out
vida
projects that
y
will
no de destrucción.
guarantee an efficient use
Asimismo,
of water
debemos
as a source
fortalecer
of
una
life and
economía
not of
moderna,
destruction.
sostenible,
We must also
competitiva,
strengthen a
que genere
modern and
empleo y
sustainable and
oportunidades sin
competitive
comprometer
economy
nuestro
that will
compromiso
generate
con el
jobs
respeto al
and
medio ambiente.
opportunities
Europa ya ha
without
demostrado su
committing
capacidad
our
de
commitment
liderazgo en
with
el ámbito
with
digital con
the
iniciativas
environment.
como el
We have
reglamento
shown
sobre la inteligencia
leadership
artificial
in
que
Europe,
equilibra la innovación
like the
tecnológica
regulation
con la
on
protección de los
AI,
derechos de los ciudadanos.
which
Ese enfoque debe
protects
ser el
the
modelo
rights of
para
citizens.
liderar los retos
This
del
has to
futuro.
be the model to lead
Sin
the
embargo, nuestra
challenges in the future.
responsabilidad no se limita a lo
Nevertheless,
económico,
our
tampoco a lo
responsibility
tecnológico.
is not only
La Unión
limited to
Europea
the
es ante todo un
economic or
proyecto basado en los
technological
valores que
part.
han dado
The
los
European
mejores
Union,
años
above
de
all,
paz,
is a project
prosperidad,
based on
libertades
values
y
that have given
democracia.
us the best years of
No
freedom,
podemos dar
prosperity,
asegurada
and
que estos valores
democracy.
permanezcan sin
We
medida.
cannot take for
Hoy
granted that
están
these
más
values will
amenazados que
remain
nunca por la
sine die.
desinformación, el
Today, they are
populismo,
more
los
threatened than ever
movimientos
by
extremistas y,
disinformation,
por supuesto,
populism,
también por los
extremist
euroscépticos.
movements, and of
Son
course
el caldo de
also by
cultivo
the
de los europeos que
skepticals.
se encuentran
It is the
frustrados
breeding
o
broth of
decepcionados
Europeans
con el
who
proyecto
find
europeo.
themselves
Por
frustrated
lo
or
tanto, nuestra
disappointed
labor, la
with
de todos
the
nosotros,
project of Europe.
es la de defender la
Therefore, our
democracia,
task
la
of all
igualdad,
of
la
us
justicia
is
y el
to
Estado de
defend
Derecho,
democracy,
además de
equality,
consagrar
justice, and the
derechos
rule
que
of law,
generen oportunidades
apart from
que nos
giving
permitan ser
rights
competitivos
and
y
offering
un actor
opportunities that
geopolítico y
will allow
económico
us to be
de
competitive
primer
and
nivel.
economic and
Estos
geopolitical
principios
player in
sustentan
the
la Unión
world.
Europea.
These
Son también
principles
el faro que
are
ilumina
the
la vida
basis
de
of the
millones de
European Union.
ciudadanos y que debe
They're
guiarles
also
en este periodo de
what
incertidumbre en
guides
el que
millions of
vivimos.
citizens in this
Debemos
period of
mostrar
uncertainty in which
que
we
en un
live.
mundo de
We must
divisiones y
show
tensiones,
that
Europa
in a world of
sigue siendo un
divisions and
espacio de
tensions,
oportunidad y de
Europe
esperanza, un
continues to
lugar
be
donde
a
los
space for
derechos y las
opportunity and
libertades
hope,
no
a
solo se
place where
protegen,
rights and
sino que
freedoms
también se
are not
fortalecen
only
día
protected,
tras día.
they are
En los
strengthened
últimos
day
años hemos
after day.
asistido a una
In the
preocupante
past few
desconexión
years, we
entre
have
la
witnessed
ciudadanía y
a
las
concerning
instituciones. Pero la
disconnection
respuesta no
between
puede ser
citizens and their
menos Europa.
institutions.
La
But the
respuesta
response
solo
cannot
puede
be
ser
less Europe.
más
The
Europa,
response can
más
only be
Europa,
more
más
Europe,
democracia, más
more
escucha,
Europe,
más cercanía
more
y sobre
democracy,
todo
more
soluciones reales
listening,
a los
being
problemas
closer,
que
and
preocupan
real
a
solutions
nuestros
to
conciudadanos.
the problems that
El espíritu
concern
que
our
alumbró la Unión
citizens.
Europea sigue vivo en
The
las
spirit
instituciones
that
y también
was behind
en
the
el corazón de
European
los
Union is
europeos.
still alive
Es hora
in
de
the
recuperar
institutions
la
and in the hearts
confianza
of
perdida de los
Europeans.
ciudadanos,
It is a time to
mostrando y
recover the
explicando
trust
que
that we
Europa es una
had,
realidad
that
que
citizens
trabaja
have
por su
lost,
bienestar, por su
showing them
seguridad
that Europe is
y
a
por su
reality,
futuro.
that Europe works for its security,
Voy
for their
finalizando.
welfare, and for their future.
No sin antes
Let me
compartir que
finish.
juntos,
But
solo
without
juntos,
finishing, I want to share that
podremos
together
construir
and
una
only
Europa
together
mejor, más
can
fuerte,
we
más moderna y
build
capaz
a better
de dar
Europe, a
respuesta
stronger,
a
more
los
modern,
retos
more
y
able
desafíos
Europe,
que
able
nos
to
deparará en los
respond to the
próximos años.
challenges that
Lo hemos
we will
demostrado en
find
los
in the
momentos
coming
más
years.
difíciles,
We
cuando
have
nos
proven
enfrentamos a la
this
mayor
in the most
pandemia que la
difficult
humanidad
times when we
ha
faced the
sufrido,
greatest pandemic
ante
that
crisis
humanity
económicas,
has ever
también
suffered,
sociales, o
when
afrontando
faced with
grandes
economic
catástrofes
crisis and
naturales.
social crisis or facing
Parafraseando
great
a la
natural
presidenta Metsola,
disasters.
abro comillas,
Paraphrasing President
Europa
Metsola,
solo
let me quote,
sobrevivirá si luchamos por ella.
Europe will only
Si
survive
dejamos de
if we
darla por
fight for
sentada,
it.
si
If
entendemos y
we
explicamos sus ventajas,
don't no longer take it for
si
granted,
escuchamos,
if we explain
si
its
nos
advantages,
oponemos
if we
a quienes
listen,
pretenden
if
socavarla,
we are
si
opposed to
somos
those
capaces de
who
aplicar
want to
reformas,
undermine it,
si
if
somos
we are
capaces
able to apply
de
reforms,
reinventar
if we are
nuestro
able
proyecto.
to reinvent our
Consiguientemente,
project.
las decisiones que se tomen en los próximos años
So the
desde las
decisions that are
instituciones
made in the
europeas
coming years
resultarán
by
determinantes
European
para
institutions
recuperar la
will
confianza de
be
todos y de cada uno
essential
de
to
los
recover
ciudadanos
the
que
trust
participamos y
of
conformamos
each
Europa.
citizen
Necesitamos
that
más Europa,
participate in
una
Europe,
Europa fuerte,
that are
sólida,
part of Europe.
cohesionada,
We need more Europe,
respetada,
a strong,
influyente y
sound,
solidaria. Los europeos
respected,
nos están
influencing,
reclamando
and solidarious Europe. Europeans are asking for us to become that Europe.
de líderes que con
we
valentía y
need more
convicción
Roberta
defienden un
Metsolas,
proyecto
leaders that
europeo
with
y
conviction
que
and
transmitan
courage
los
defend
valores
the
de la Unión
European
Europea.
project and that can
Valores
convey the
que
values
debemos
of the
legar a los
European
jóvenes,
Union.
porque
Values
Europa
that
es
we
presente,
must
es esperanza y es el
convey to
futuro
our
de las
young
próximas generaciones.
population because
El próximo año se
they
cumple
are the future. Next year
el 75º aniversario de la Declaración
is the
de Schuman,
75th
un
anniversary
momento
of the
clave para
Declaration
reafirmar
of
que la Unión
Schuman,
Europea
a key
está
moment
consolidada
to
sobre los
reaffirm
ideales
that
de
the
libertad,
European Union is
justicia y
consolidated
democracia.
on the
Este
ideals
aniversario nos
of
recuerda que
justice
Europa
and
no es una
democracy.
obra
This
acabada,
anniversary
sino un
reminds us
proyecto en
that Europe is
constante
not a finished
construcción
work.
que nos
It
interpela
is
a
a
todos.
project that is still under
La entrega de este
construction.
premio no es solo un homenaje a Roberta
The
Metsola,
handing over
sino
of
también nos
this
permite
award is not only
renovar nuestro
homage to
compromiso con la
Roberta
Unión
Metsola.
Europea.
It also
Es un
allows us to
llamamiento
renew our
a
commitment
seguir
with the
trabajando por un
European
proyecto que
Union.
desde la
It is a
resiliencia
call
y
to continue
fortaleza
to
ha
work for
mejorado la
a
vida de millones de
project
personas
that
y que lo
has
seguirá
improved the
haciendo,
lives
ya
of
que de
millions
nosotros
of
depende.
people and will continue to do
Europa
so
no es grande ni
because it
pequeña.
depends on us.
Europa es
And we are
inmensa.
committed. Europe is not
Pero
small
solo
or
lo
big.
será del
It's
todo cuando
immense.
cada
But
europeo
it will only
si la
be
sienta como
immense when
propia,
every single
cuando sepa que su
European
vida y su
citizens
futuro
feel it as
forman
its
parte
own,
esencial
when they feel
de
that
este
their life and
proyecto
future
común. Es
form an
nuestra
essential part of
responsabilidad
this common
mantener viva
project.
la llamada
It
de
is
la
our
unidad,
responsibility to
esperanza
keep
y del
alive
progreso,
the call
el
for
alma
unity,
de la Unión Europea.
hope,
Otorgar
and
este
progress,
premio
the soul
a
of the
Roberta
European
Metsola no
Union.
solo es justo,
Awarding this prize
sino que
to
también es
Roberta Metsola is
profundamente
not only
representa,
fair,
si me lo
it is
permiten, un símbolo.
profoundly
Es una declaración en
representative
sí
of a
mismo
symbol.
de confianza
It is a
en el
declaration
futuro
in
de Europa.
itself of
Muchísimas
trust
gracias.
in the future of Europe. Thank you very much.
Permítanme
And
que
having come to
agradezca
the
muy
end of
especialmente al
this
presidente
event,
del
allow
Patronato
me
del Teatro
to
Real de
thank
Madrid, a su
the
director general y a
President
su
of
extraordinario equipo
the Board of
profesional por haber
Trustees
podido
of the
celebrar
Teatro
en este
Real, this
magnífico
beautiful
escenario
building
la
where
ceremonia de
we
entrega
had
del
the
premio
privilege
Fórum Europa
to
a doña Roberta
hold
Metsola, presidenta del
this
Parlamento
awards
Europeo.
ceremony in
Como
its
colofón,
2024
escucharemos el
edition,
himno
award
europeo
that went to
interpretado por el
the
coro
President of the
y la
European
Orquesta
Parliament, Roberta
Filarmonía de
Metsola.
Madrid
And to
bajo la
finish this
dirección del
event, we
maestro
will hear
Rafael
from
Alviñana. De pie,
we'll
por
hear
favor.
the European anthem conducted by Maestro Rafael Alviñana from the Madrid Philharmonic Orchestra.